Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jonah from Spotlight, and today we have the opportunity and privilege of talking to Leon Hill. Leon, how you doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing so good and happy to talk to you again. I just wanted to call out a couple things before we dive in. First and foremost, we have done a few events with Leon. So if today you're just scratching the surface of everything that he does, and there's a wealth of things he does, but if you want to check out his courses or past events on the Spotlight YouTube channel, you can just search his name, Leon Hill, and you'll see those past events. We're only talking about a small portion of everything that Leon gets into and his businesses and his courses and all of that. So I just want to call that out. There's tons of more resources there. And also, if you've been following along in the past month of events, we've really been trying to outline all the different paths you can take to building courses and coaching products and all of those things. And this week, we've been talking all about launching courses. And that's why we brought Leon aboard for this conversation, just to casually talk about Leon, your most recent course launch, kind of how it went, what it's like to build a course and launch a course as a busy creator. You're all over the world. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is everyone says they're busy, but if you even just mildly follow your Instagram for a couple days, it appears like you're busy all over the world.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to see how someone manages all of that. And especially, I think it's easy to like watch someone's socials and think that they do it all alone, or that,
No.
right.
No, definitely not.
So I think it's really valuable to also look at like the multiple mechanisms and people who are involved and stuff like that. So for everyone watching today, or if you're watching the replay, there will be a replay for all of this on the YouTube, on the Spotlight event page as well. That's what we're talking to Leon about today. And I just want to dive in and start chatting. And first of all, for anyone who watches this that may not know who you are, would you just give a brief introduction of kind of your synopsis, your little journey, what you're up to these days?
Yeah. First things, thank you for the opportunity again, and great to speak to you again. But yeah, as you said, my name is Leon. I am it's really kind of hard to describe these days.
Yeah.
Long story short, I'm a business owner. My business partner, Sorel, and we have a company called Abundantia, which is a company where we say that the two main, I guess the main tagline of the business is finance and freedom. So we teach people how to become financially independent, but also achieve a level of freedom in many different other avenues. So basically, to give you an idea of how the concept of this business started, is I started my first company when I was 23, which is almost 15 years ago now. Getting closer to 40 than I am to 30 now. Basically, and then Sorel, she became, I guess, quite financially successful in her late 20s as a YouTuber primarily. Now, we had a problem, which was a good problem at the time, that we were generating quite a lot of revenue, but we had no idea what to do with it. We both lived, I was a citizen of one country but had residency somewhere else. Sorel's a citizen of two countries and had residency somewhere else. And there's obviously the first questions that start to come up are questions about tax. Right. So we had to, start figuring out, okay, where's the best country in the world for us to set up our company for tax reasons, for, asset management reasons, for investing reasons, and all these kind of things. And we just went down this path kind of by accident for ourselves, not for anyone else. This path of learning which countries are beneficial to have residencies in, which countries may afford you a certain level of freedom by being able to get a citizenship in that country, either by bloodline or by, marriage or by investment or things like that. We learned very quickly, lots of trial and error, lots of really, really great assistance from people like accountants and lawyers that we were paying $500 an hour for, how to invest well, where to put our money. So we had from relatively early, both of us, we had the making money online, the financial independence part, but we figured out all these other little pillars, or as we call them, the 4 keys of complete freedom, which is setting up structures around the world, which is an independent income, which is investing, and the other one is citizenships and residencies. So we started to have friends of ours asking us, like, how are you guys doing this? Like, where have you got your companies? Like, people were just interested about what we were doing. And for me, I always had this little thing in the back of my mind from being a kid. I love the idea of being James Bond, not the, shooting people in the head and being a
Right.
womanizer thing. But I love the fact that he was going around the world and he had like these little stash boxes with his passports in it and stashes of cash and like, secret bank accounts and stuff like that. Not that we have secret bank accounts, but this vision of being completely free globally on a different level. And our friends really got interested in it, and we had for about a year friends just constantly saying like, where do I set up a company? Where should I get residency? My grandfather was from Latvia. Can I get citizenship? And so we were giving these friends advice, and it got to such a big level that we just realized this is a business. Even though we had other things that we were doing ourselves. I had a PR company and a marketing agency. Sorel was a YouTuber, but we realized that we needed to start this company, and we did. And within 6 months, it had eclipsed absolutely everything that we were doing combined.
Huh.
So now it's become our major focus. But I guess where this all ties into, what we do with Teachable is the fact that we have been selling digital products and courses for about 6 or 7 years now. My previous history as a consultant, I was helping other companies sell digital products online. And then once Sorel became, I guess, a YouTube personality, she launched her first course, I think 6 years ago, and I helped her market it. And then it's just been a constant process of repetition, of refinement, and we've gotten really, really good at it. Every single time we launch a new product, we think that there's no way in hell we're going to make more than the last launch we did, and every single time we prove ourselves wrong, and we do more. Perfect example, the first of this month, we did basically $300,000 in revenue in the first 48 hours. So it's just this constant process of refinement of, I believe, getting away from, what I do, but I believe that selling digital products is the greatest thing that anyone can do on the internet. And over the years, Sorel and I have experience selling courses. We have a membership now that has 3,200 paying members. We've sold digital downloads. She sold camera presets, photography and videography. So we've sold pretty much every single type of digital product that there is, consulting and coaching as well. And the fantastic thing about any kind of digital product, courses especially, is that I really believe that every single person, regardless of how, I really don't like this culture that we have today of people sort of, degrading themselves. And, there's this culture of, people being a bit pessimistic and saying there's nothing fantastic about me. Every single person that I've ever met, there is something that they know about or that they can do better than 95% of the population. It might be a hobby that they have that they can talk about for hours, that they know better than 95% of humanity. It might be a skill that they have that most people can't do. Every single person that I've ever met and I've asked this question has this thing that they either know about, that they're more passionate about, or that they can do better than 95% of the human population. And every single time I've had this discussion with someone, I've figured out a way that they could turn that into a digital product. And the great thing about digital products is that the profit margins are huge. When you take out of account, things like, card processing fees and all this kind of stuff, sometimes you can end up with 95%. And it's like, I know so many people that have struggled with trying to sell physical products. Sorel did this in, a past life as well, as trying to sell physical products on Amazon. You've got to think about manufacturing. You've got to think about shipping costs. You might be selling a $50 product and you take maybe $6, $7, $10, maybe 20 if you're lucky. With a digital product, you're helping people solve problems, which I absolutely love, first and foremost. But second to that, you are using what you already have and turning that into a business that is giving you a much more phenomenal life than you could working 9 to 5. Or, if I was having a discussion with a plumber recently about how he could like make a little small guide about, the 100 most common plumbing fixes that people are constantly getting called about, and starting to create content about that. Like, instead of someone paying $500 for a call out for a plumber, here's this little thing that has basically every single basic plumbing problem that you may ever have in your house. Now, if he markets that the right way, it could potentially replace his income, and he won't have to get out of bed and go to jobs constantly. It might just be able to replace a small portion of his income so he can work less. And I love that. I believe that human beings were not designed to work. We're not designed to get up and just go to a job and trade our time for money. Or if you do want to trade your time for money, you trade your time for money that you're making for yourself with your skills or your passion or your knowledge, as opposed to giving that to someone else. And this is why I think, long story short, digital products are just so beautiful, man.
Well, and the idea, there's a lot to unpack there, but but right off the bat, I love, you could get into drop shipping or all this shit, and you're just constantly towing this ethical line. Where when you're teaching other people to solve a problem, it's really like, it's just the challenge is how to do it as well as possible for as many people. But you're not worried about, like, is there a Malaysian factory making this or anything like that? It's just simply ethically beautiful.
You've touched on something very important there. So Sorel has her YouTube channel. She's got 1 million subscribers, and our YouTube channel with our combined business has 500,000. And one of our ethical things, and I'm not saying this is everyone's choice, but we refuse to do partnerships with sponsors that have any kind of physical product. We just don't want to support the shipping of items all around the world. And a lot of the time when you have a sponsor coming to you to say, we're going to give you 10 grand for your YouTube channel, and we want to promote this energy, whatever it might be, we just don't want to support that extra, just like, fast, just disposable items being shipped around the world. So we only do partnerships with companies that are like digital, companies that, do web hosting, or like Teachable, or, whatever it may be. So that's also something important that some people can care about as well.
Yeah.
We definitely care about it.
Yeah. Well, and if nothing else, I just think it's cool that it's right. It's just a cool avenue. But I want to back up a little, because I love you're talking about the exact kind of process where we're really trying to unpack, which is not just sitting in a vacuum and being like, oh, people might like this, but you had something you were doing for yourself. People were like, wow, that seems to be working. Can you tell us more? You recognize that was a business. And then did you immediately turn that into, like, was the first idea a course? Did you do one-on-one coaching? What was kind of the like product step until you had an actual curriculum to put out?
So for us, we're Sorel and I are really big believers that if you are going to start a business, and so our business now, it hasn't always been the way. So like I've owned a marketing agency, or 2 marketing agencies and a PR agency, and those businesses had nothing to do with creating content, but our primary way of generating sales now is by creating content. A YouTube channel, we have a mailing list of 60 something thousand people as well. But the thing that we've both believed is that if you are going into a business to create content, you should have a product to sell from the very first day. So the thing is, from our point of view, your content for any kind of content marketing business, your content has to be fantastic. And I'm a really big believer that some people have this Gary V mentality, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it necessarily, but just produce as much content as you possibly can. And that is the way to do a content marketing business. I prefer to do the opposite. For me, if I can spend the same amount of time to produce 3 pieces of content, but I can produce 1 really great piece, I would prefer to do that any day. And what I'm tending to find time and time again, because the content, whether it's YouTube or podcasts or email newsletters, whatever it may be, whatever industry you're going to go into, to a certain extent, it's going to be saturated. So people will gravitate towards the highest quality content possible, not people that are putting out the same shit that everyone else is, not people that are just shotgunning as many pieces of content out as they can per day. People are gravitating towards the stuff that actually stands out. So for me also, it's much less mental energy to create 1 really great piece of content than to have this like constant adrenaline running. All right, produce another one. Like I have a vision in my head of like, this is what I want to say with this piece, whether it's, a YouTube video or a newsletter. Like we send a newsletter out once a week, but it's like 1,500 words, 2,000 words sometimes. Like it's they're long and they're very heavily story driven. There's almost nothing like it out on the internet. But because we're doing something different and people can feel the effort put into it, we're growing. Like in a year, it's 60 something thousand people. So like, it's what we're doing is working. So, But what I'm getting at when it comes to, creating a product, we had a vision in our mind that when we knew that we had to start this business because so many people were asking about it, we knew that we had to have a product pretty much from day one.
Mm.
And we knew what that product was going to be. It was teaching people these, what we call the 4 keys of freedom, which is, generating an independent income, investing, citizenships and residencies, and global structures, things like, offshore companies and bank accounts and things like that. So what we did, we knew how we were going to, the business was going to be marketed with content. We knew it was going to be a YouTube channel and a mailing list because I'm a writer and Sorel is a fantastic video promoter. So we're just like, okay, there's our 2 strengths. That's what we're going to focus on. But what we knew we didn't want to do is focus on getting sponsors for the YouTube channel. I mean, we have sponsors now for almost every video because we've grown so fast. But one thing that, whether you call them influencers or content creators, that they do almost unequivocally wrong constantly is that they wait for sponsors. And for us, and this is why we tie into so much, you have your own product first. Now, a few years ago, I started a podcast. And I knew from day one that I wanted to have my own product ready. It was a small little $50 course, but I had that being sold on the podcast in the intro from day one. Now, I had no idea that this was going to happen, but within the first 6 weeks, I was featured on New and Noteworthy on iTunes. I was ranked in the health and fitness category as #1 podcast in the world in 30-something countries. And that resulted in me bringing in $30-something thousand in sales of my course. Now, if I would have said, what I'm going to do is create content first and create a product when I have an audience, I would have not made those sales because I had no idea that I was going to go viral. I had no idea it was going to be picked up. And so the thing for me is that like your business, if you don't have a product to sell, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. And you're just, you're doing is you're just doing something that, like, sure, you may be creating the greatest content in the world, and sure, you may be creating the most revolutionary YouTube videos that in 6 months everyone's going to know about, but you're not going to have a sponsor from day one. You're not going to be getting massive YouTube ad revenue from day one. But what you can be getting is eyeballs on your videos that are also seeing your own products, which are effectively sponsored in your own videos that people are going to be seeing from day one. So that's what we've always done. That we learned very quickly. You don't wait for sponsors. You don't wait for someone else to pay you, regardless of what you're doing in your business. You make sure that you have something to sell first. And I know a lot of people, the reason that I'm focusing very heavily on content marketing, even though I believe that there are so many other ways of, generating exposure, and Sorel and I have done pretty much every single one of them in the past. But I know a lot of people these days are focusing on content, whether it's Instagram or whether it's writing blog posts or whether it's, podcasting or whatever it may be. If you don't have your own product from day one, I think you're making a mistake. But if you don't have a product at all yet, you don't have a business. If you're just waiting for sponsors to come along or whatever. And a really great example of why I don't think you should wait for other people to pay you is that, we've grown because we're quite good at it. We grew our YouTube channel now in a year to 500,000 subscribers, but we've been doing this for a long time. So, sure, it's a big result, but we really know what we're doing. We're both marketers by background, but we're in the sort of the finance sector. So it's one of the highest, cost per 1,000 views on YouTube. It's some of the highest sponsorships that in any industry on YouTube. However, despite that, we still make more by selling our own products than we do from our YouTube ad revenue and from sponsors. So even if you're in one of the most expensive industries where you earn some of the highest sponsorships, in our case, we still make more from our own products than we do from all of that other stuff. And even so, we've sold products in many other industries, not necessarily just finance. And what we're selling now isn't really that much more expensive. Like, we know a lot of people selling financial related courses and products and stuff like that for like $2,000 to $5,000. We're selling ours for less than $800, and we're still making considerably more. It's just like, have your own product, regardless of what you're doing. Have something from the get-go. If you have a vision, if you haven't yet started, if you're watching this and you're like, well, I have an idea for a course, or I have an idea for a coaching thing, or I have an idea for whatever kind of digital product it may be, and you're thinking, well, what I'm going to do first is start pumping out content for 6 months, and then I'm going to create a product. No, create your product first, and then start creating content that is going to drive people to that product. Obviously, content that you want to create, because this is another thing that a lot of people really miss out on. They focus on creating the type of content that they think will work, but it's also, you got to think consistency is very much key in any kind of content marketing. If you're like fall off the wagon for a while, or if you're just not consistent, if you tell people you're going to produce a YouTube video every Thursday, you should be producing it every Thursday, apart from like, taking a, we're big advocates of like, we just took a 1 month break off YouTube because it was just like about time. We've been pumping out content, but like, you also need to be creating stuff that you want to create. And my big thing is sort of telling stories. I love tying in what's happened in human history and showing how nothing that we're experiencing today, whether it comes to, money or financial collapse or inflation or anything like that, it's something that's happened hundreds of times in human history. So I tell these ancient stories and tie it into what's happening in the modern world. I love storytelling like that. I love educating people like that. And that's what we do on YouTube. And that's what we do on the newsletter. So it's not really an effort. I love doing it. So obviously figure out the type of content that you want to create, but your product is really the most important thing, and try and figure out from the start the best way that you can tie in your content with your product. Or if you're not going into the content marketing side of things, the best way that you can tie in how you plan on promoting your business, whether it's word of mouth or paid ads or PR or whatever it may be, how the best way to tie that into the product that you're intending to create.
Well, I love that, because especially that model where you have your own product, you're also less desperate for sponsors, so you can be pickier. You can like, I don't know. There's a few things there that I think really resonate with me. There's, yes, having that product before you make content, because also that product will guide your content. That's kind of what I'm hearing as well. It also seems like though you were careful about choosing a product that you could put out sooner rather than later, because I definitely know creators get stuck up being like, I want to create a course about everything I've ever learned ever about this, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll work on that for 2 years.
Yeah.
And not put it. So it sounds like with your $50 course, you were like, this is something actionable I can put out in time for the podcast. So you're a proponent of this, but it sounds like you're also really good at picking like reasonable sizes of things to pair together and stuff. Now you have a big mechanism and everything, so it seems like you can bite off more. But for the beginning creator, like, do you have a little advice for like, I think everyone who's in this industry who wants to create something has a shitload of ideas.
Yes.
But like, any advice for like actually picking the one that's right for the place you are in your journey?
Yeah. So there's two things that I think are really good ways to hone in on that. One is a really great example that I've already mentioned. Like, we had friends asking us about this thing constantly. And that was to us, that was like, all right, we don't even really need to do market research. We know that there are people asking for this. We still did a little bit of market research. We asked some people in our social media audiences, would this be something you were interested in? But we knew if there's something you're good at and people are constantly coming to you asking you about it for help on it, I think that's a really fantastic, like the universe is giving you a little like flag and it's going, look at this thing. There's people asking you for this. You can get paid for this.
Right.
So if you've got like, a dozen people a year in your personal life coming to you for something that you're special at, think of how many people there are on the planet that you can reach, that you can also help solve that problem. The second thing that I want to sort of touch on, if you do have a bunch of ideas swirling around in your head, again, you've touched on something so important, which is people get stuck. They have so many ideas, and I could do this, and I could do that, I could do this. What's going to be the easiest thing for you to get to market, like fastest? What's the thing that, I have many specialties throughout sort of my history. I've been a publicist. Most of it's been sort of marketing related stuff. I mean, bar my first job where I was an engineer on Black Hawk helicopters, which has nothing to do with anything that I've done today. Everything has been sort of something marketing related. I've been a marketing consultant. I've been a publicist. I've worked in digital advertising. So there's a lot of things that I can do, but when it comes to like the problems that I want to solve now, it's kind of like what's the thing right now that I have that I could the problem that I could solve the easiest for the most people, that I can explain like in the simplest way possible. Like there might be 10 things that you can do and you could turn it into a course, but what's that one thing that you can look at yourself and go like, this is my talent. Like if I had to pick one of those talents out, that I could smash this course out. I barely have to do any research. All of this information is in my head right now, and I just have to literally turn on the tap and it'll just come out on a page or a video. That's why I think it's really important to do that one, because I know how easy it is to get stuck, and it's like your first product it's not going to be perfect. Don't try and make your first product this like something that's going to be remembered throughout history as a literary masterpiece. Like you can always like release something and then take feedback. Like we have one of the best things that we ever did was last year. Our most recent course, apart from the one that's on Presale now, it's a membership, and we have 3,200 paying members, and they're constantly telling us what we can do better, what we can add to the membership, and things like that. It's fantastic. Having your course out being imperfect and being honest up front in like the first module of the course, saying like, I would love to hear your feedback, and please let me know what you would like me to add or change or remove, or then what you're doing is you're asking the people that have already paid you money. When you've paid someone money, you're passionate about it. You're like, well, I think this guy could do better on this. These are the people that can help you make a kick-ass product. They can, like, your first product's not going to be great, so ask the people that have already been willing to pay for it. Also, another thing you can do, give 10 people free access to it and say, I'm giving you free access to it, but I want your absolute brutal feedback on it. Tell me what I can do better. It's better to put out an imperfect product and ask for feedback than it is to do nothing at all. And another point that I want to kind of about listening to what people want, like the most recent course that Sorel and I have put out that we put on Presale on the 1st of April. It was the course that we didn't intend on doing, yet it was the course that more people have asked us about in the last 6 years than pretty much everything else. We've literally made a digital product about how to take the knowledge that's in your brain and turn it into a course or a membership or a download, basically, which is what we think is our ultimate tool for freedom, to take what you know and to turn it into a digital product that sells. And we didn't want to make it really. It was like, all right, we're going to make it. We're going to make a course about courses, but we just, so many people. There were a few things. One, we didn't want to necessarily like, all right, we're giving away everything that we know about, that's made us, millions of dollars over the years. But it was also this like sort of arrogant thing, like no one wants a course about courses. But then we realized like, this is what people are asking us for. Like, I have this idea to be a coach. How do I sell this? And so we listened, and then, obviously the proof is in the pudding, because people wanted it, and it was our biggest pre-sale ever.
Yeah. Well, that it is, I've gotten lost in kind of the meta like place where I've been doing events with course creators on how to make courses about making courses. It is crazy, but I love it. It's also beautiful to see though, and that's what I love about the kind of digital product space, because there are courses about that, but people wanted to know how to do it your way. How do you do it the way that you did it? And like, I want to watch Leon and Sorel tell me how they build it and what their advice is.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I'm really happy you did make that, because I think your perspective in that space is really valuable. And everyone who does it is, but like, it's cool that I understand why you wouldn't want to get into that. Yeah. But I think it's really valuable you did, because you do have a different approach. And I think it's clear for anyone, if you go watch Leon and Sorel's YouTube videos and stuff, you are not the Gary Vee approach. I think that approach is great just to get comfortable with making content, but it is clear that you enjoy what you do, that you've refined it, and you take a lot of creative pride in what you do. So it's
that's
cool
the thing,
to learn that version of how you turn that into courses and how you turn up with that. Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Everyone, you can say the same thing to a human being that 3 other people have said to them before, but maybe you just have a different affinity with that person. Maybe just the way that that you say it to them. Maybe they can relate to you more because you're a 25-year-old woman and not a 40-year-old man. Like whatever it may be. Just because someone else has created a product about it before, your own individual spin on it, your previous life experience in terms of, what you've done with it, chances are it's not going to be exactly the same product. Like Sorel and I know, we always, with our products, do market research. We go and buy a few similar products of people that are doing what we've done. I mean, with the last membership we did, there was nothing really we could buy because nothing existed. But with this, there are obviously creators selling courses about courses. So we went and bought a few. And from looking through them, ours is going to be nothing like any of those because we have such a different background and experience that like we know we're offering something different. So yeah, that's another really good thing that like, if someone's done it before, it doesn't matter because they haven't done it like you. And you'll probably reach a completely different audience than they will. Like there's nothing wrong with the Gary V methodology of creating content. Some people gravitate towards that and some people love him, but some people don't.
Right.
So, and you might be a person that you'll grab a completely different audience group of people that just go, well, Gary V's not my thing, but this guy, this girl, whatever, I relate to them and, I like what they're saying. So yeah, there's someone out there for everyone. As they say, there's plenty of fish in the sea.
Right.
Regards to, that's in regards to love as well as, making money on the internet.
Yeah. I did want to ask just like a couple questions just about this most recent course launch. Like I'm sure every time you learn something and try and apply it to the next one. So I was kind of curious, like, were there specific things or just a few things you learned from past launches, mistakes you feel like you made, or just like new ideas you had that you implemented with this launch that like just from that launch and business perspective of like greasing the wheel, making it better every time that you were really proud of or thought were like especially cool marketing approaches or stuff like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess there's tiny refinement things that are going to be really hard to speak about. Things like we from all of our previous courses, there's not a single one of them where the sales video has stayed the same. We've refilmed them a couple of times. Even already once we've already refilmed and I'm about to put it live on the course sales page, and it's less
For
than
the
a month
most
later.
recent one?
For the most recent one, we've already
Yeah.
we've already refilmed that to put it up there. Is because we know that there may be this 30 seconds that could be cut out or this could be said better. So there's like these tiny little refinements that you'll learn over time that just may make a video do better or may make your landing page do better. And those things are really hard to, most of the time, those things will just come with experience. And, there are like A, B's and C's of really what works with a landing page and what works with a sales video, but I'm not going to go into them here because they're really like nitty gritty technical things and you can go into them for hours. But one thing that we did this time that we've never done before, and it added about 40 grand to our pre-sale, is that what we usually do is when we put a course on sale, when people go to the thank you page, there's an offer for one of our other products. Like, we've also got this thing. If you want to buy it right now, you can get it at 20% off. Grab it. What we did this time is we put a second course also on pre-sale, brand new course so we're actually not pre-selling one course right now. We're actually pre-selling two. So what we did is we decided to put them both on pre-sale for the first time. The second one, we weren't so sure about. We knew people had asked for it, which is why we wanted to create it. But we wanted to see how much of a response there was to it before we went public with it. We weren't planning on going public with it until maybe next year. But instead, we put that as like the upsell on the thank you page. And instead of, maybe doing, $5,000 in sales like I thought it did 40. So, that little thing, if you have an idea, if you can put two products on sale at the second time or something like, you could be putting your course on pre-sale, but the thing to understand is when someone's willing to pull their card out or money out of their pocket and give you money, they already trust you. So the chance that if you've got a second product on your thank you page, the chance that they're going to buy again is pretty high. So we've done in the past like little mini events and stuff like that people could upsell, but never like another brand new course. And I think what added to it as well was the second course, people can only buy it now by buying the first course. So there's kind of like this little exclusivity, this kind of thing, like you're the only people that can buy this right now. And you're the only people that will ever be able to buy it at this price. and this is the only time you'll ever be able to buy it at this price. So people were like, all right, I want in on this as well. And it was kind of a complementary thing to the other course as well. So I'd say that's the big thing that kind of pushed us over the edge. It would have, the 48-hour pre-sale that we did would have been about the same as last time, but this pushed it over the edge by, about, I think in total we did about 30 grand more than we did in the last 30 grand more than we did the last 48-hour pre-sale. So that's the thing. If you can, one product is great, whatever your business is, one product is great, but multiple is better. If you have a $99 course about something and you can upsell people on a $1,000 private one-on-one coaching after they've bought that, do that. Because the thing is that if someone is already interested in learning from you and they already trust you, chances are they will want more. And especially if you can give them something special, if you can give them one-on-one time, if you're selling a $100 course, but you can offer them a single one-on-one session that's like $250 or $500 an hour after they've already paid for it. And that you don't have to create another product. You just have to sell it and then schedule a one-on-one time with that person. I mean, it's almost counterintuitive for you not to do it, kind of thing. So
right.
Yeah, there's always a way to add to what you're already doing. But like I said, the big thing that we did differently this time is that we didn't upsell to a different course. We sort of gave this little thing of exclusivity for something else that no one else could get at the time, and it really worked.
That's such a cool, because there's a lot of times where that happens and there's kind of false scarcity there.
It was definitely not false scarcity, but it was like this was literally the only. It was kind of like people felt like they were in this, and we even had two people messages about. They're like, I felt like I was getting something secret that no one else could get.
That was kind of cool, yeah. Well, and it was though.
It was. It's kind of the truth, yeah. But also I think the other thing that helped is like, the little secrecy was like a little bonus, but the fact that people could only get it now at that heavily discounted price. Like once we announce it, it'll be 30% off, or it'll be off the full price. But we decided to give people 50% off if they bought it then. So that also helped. And there's definitely nothing wrong with giving people heavy discounts. We found it works massively for pre-sale periods. Some people think that, and I've heard one other sort of influencer friend of mine, when I said, for the first 48 hours, do half off. And he's like, no way. There's no way I'm going to cut it down for 48 hours half off. And the thing you got to think about is, one, you're really rewarding your most loyal fans and customers. And sure, 50% off sounds massive, but you're also only giving it for a very short period of time. Right. In the past, we only gave it for 24 hours and then realized that so many people afterwards were like, I missed that 24 hours. Like one day is not enough. So we gave 2 days. And since we've been doing that, our pre-sales, our launches have been like spectacular. But like what you're doing is you're creating scarcity for a short period of time to make that window of your launch something that people have to like be a part of. But you're also rewarding your most loyal fans, followers, customers, whatever it may be. And it's kind of like, we've done launches where we don't give 50% off for that time, and they always do much more poorly. We make more money by giving half off for 48 hours than we do for not doing it. So it's some people think that, well, it's too much of a, it devalues the product. It doesn't really, because you're also telling people that, unless you're going to lie to people and say it's 50% off, and then after the 40 hours, you just keep it at 50% off as like this little scummy thing, which you shouldn't do. But as long as people know, like, this is the price of the product, like this is what it's going to be, and you've got 2 days to get it. And if you don't, then it's gone. Like there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Well, we did the whole event yesterday was about kind of like having windows for your launches, whether it's for your pre-sale or for your actual course. And although I think when you're a bigger creator, when you're at the point where you can have a team helping you out, it's easier to have a product open all the time and all of this. But I've also talked to a lot of creators who burn out early on when they're just constantly trying to market something. And so I'm partly asking Twin Kennedy's question, which you touched on here. But you keep your courses open. It sounds like you always have them open once they're fully launched, they're available, but you're still utilizing this idea that you are creating pockets of time when you're really marketing a course and putting that energy into it, whether Correct, it's the discounts or exclusivity. So do you have a equation for that? Twin Kennedy is asking, how long do you have the course open? Do you pre-sale forever? Like do you have hard strategy, or does it depend on the product and kind of when you're working with it?
So we've always historically in the past, just to touch on something that you just mentioned there, we've always historically in the past left our courses open constantly. So, there are a lot of people that do a window. They will they will have their course will only be available once a year for maybe a month, and then that's it. It's done. We've always not done that simply because we have quite a big sort of social media audience, and we found that allowing people to buy it throughout the year, like for example, if we put the Codex in the Order, which is our course and membership on sale when the YouTube channel first started, and we only put it on sale for that 2 months when we had, I think we got up to maybe 70,000 subscribers in the first 2 months. If we hadn't relaunched it again by now, there's basically 430-ish thousand people that would have no chance to buy that product.
Right.
And we've made so much money during that time from the product sales, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to us. If you have a constant stream of good content, if you've got eyeballs on you all the time, I think it's a great idea to have at least one product out there constantly. In saying that, our most recent course, the manual, we are putting it on pre-sale for 3 months. Then we are going to have it on full price sale for 1 month, and then we're going to cut that one out. So this one is going to be the first product ever that we're doing where we're only going to open it once a year. The reason that we're choosing to do that is because we already have what we would consider our primary product, which is a course and a membership together that will constantly be sold. So, but to answer Twin Kennedy's question specifically, so the formula that we have touched on that we find that works best for our audience, and I'm going to say that again because it's so important. The formula that we have touched on that we have found works best for our audience, and keep in mind we've been doing this for getting close to 7 years now, so we're refining it based on what works for us. So I always recommend testing it, but what we do is now we do a 48-hour pre-sale period where it's 50% off. Then for the remainder of the next 3 months, which is what we consider a pre-sale period now, we have it at 30% off. And then after that, it's at full price sale. And usually then we just leave the product going forever. But this time, once it goes on full price sale, we're going to have it at full price for a month. And then that's it. We're only going to take one intake a year. And so next year we'll open it up for a month, do the same, and then end it. But that was the decision that we basically made in partnership with our ad agency that runs a lot of our ads for us. That it would start to get to the point where things would get a little bit too confusing from an ad remarketing point of view. There'd just be too much into it. We wouldn't get enough data, or we'd get a bit of diluted data. So that's what works for us. I tend to find from my discussions with other influencers and creators that do the the on and then cut off thing. Like Sam Calder is a friend of mine who does, he's got a video course. He's one of the world's best video content creators, in my opinion. And he's about to open his course for the second time ever. So that really works for him and his audience. But Sam is very different to us in terms of content creation. Like he's on, he's got 1.3 million on Instagram, and I can't remember what he's got on YouTube, but he might post 2 or 3 YouTube videos a year. They're these very unbelievably produced travel pieces. Sometimes Sam doesn't even post a photo on his Instagram for a month and a half. So the same strategy of keeping a product open that works for us, because we're publishing a newsletter once a week and a YouTube video once a week. We have this constant stream of eyeballs. That's why it works for us, and it also that's why that doesn't work so much for Sam, because he's just my guess why it wouldn't work so well. So obviously take advice, but don't just take my advice. Find other people that are maybe similar to us, maybe more similar to you, and find out what's working for them and start to emulate that first, but also test. You'll never get it right the first time. You'll never get your launch right the first time. You'll get to the end of your launch and you'll go, fuck, I could have done that thing that probably could have generated 20% sales. That's fine. Learn for it. Learn from that mistake and use it next time. You'll get so much better at it. Like the first time we did a product launch, looking back on it now, it was a shit show. We are such a well-oiled machine now that it's like the amount of stress that was in it at the start. It's just like breathing now. It's just like we know what we're doing, and you'll just get better over time. We're still getting better over time.
Yeah. Well, I'm always curious. I appreciate when creators are open about this, but like, how big is your team at this point?
Uh, so we have, I think it's 6 people in total. So we have a so there's Sorel and I, then we have a business manager, we have a bookkeeper, we have a full-time video editor, we have a community manager and customer service person, and that's it. So seven in
Yeah.
total. Yeah.
Well, I just love because it does demystify kind of this thing where I'm saying where it's like, how do they do it all? It's like you don't.
Well, it's in
And
complete
yeah.
transparency. This team has all happened in the last year. Sorel and I,
Oh wow. Okay.
to be completely and utterly transparent, one thing that we have both been historically terrible at is hiring people when we should have.
Uh,
We both had the mentality, which I've known for years is the complete incorrect way of thinking. That we've always thought that like we in many ways, Sorel and I are both, what do they say? Something like, I don't know. There's a phrase that describes like you're really good at many things, but you're not a master of one specific thing. Like that,
yeah.
that's us. We're great at so many things, but we always thought because we can do so many things in the business that we're always going to be the best person to do it. So for years we just did everything ourselves, and it's a stupid mentality of thinking. One, because the reason that I do this is to have free time, so I can, it's almost 24-hour daylight now in Iceland. And now for the next 3 months, I'm going to be in my Jeep in the central highlands of Iceland doing whatever the hell I want. Now, if I was still living in that mentality of not hiring people, yeah, jack of all trades, master of none. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
My brain wasn't working. But like, one of the best things about selling digital products is that this can be an absolute tool for freedom. And you may get to a point, where you're doing, 5-10 grand a month, whatever it is. And if that thing pops into your head and goes, well, I could spend 2 grand of that a month to hire someone to take off all this crap that I'm doing that I don't want to do, like emails and all of these things that can refine my life. But that also means 2 grand a month, not in my pocket. That is the time when you should hire that person. It will make you grow so much faster. The thing that Sorel and I have realized over time is that we should be doing the things that we are best at. The thing that I'm the best at is writing and writing stories. So I write the newsletter, I write the scripts for the YouTube channel, and that's pretty much it. Sorel, the thing that she does best is present on camera. So that's what she does. Everything else someone else does. Because the energy now that we can put into the things that we do best, when we're not thinking about all this other crap, like emails. I sit down and I answer emails for 15 minutes every morning. And then I tell everyone, like all my staff know that they are not going to get an answer from me on an email until the next day. I do it once in the morning. I get my inbox back down to 0, and then I don't look at it again. It's only in emergencies that they'll hit me up on Signal. And it is so fantastic because it takes all of that stress off, the minute things that I don't have to do. But also it allows me to use my valuable mental energy on the things that I do absolutely best. And that's what helps the business grow. And before you also think, like, this is something that, despite how popular it is globally, that so many people still haven't done, is that you don't necessarily need to hire someone in your own country. If to hire an assistant in your country is going to cost you 2 grand or 3 grand a month, but that person doesn't need to be next to you. If it's someone to answer your emails and do research and customer service, I mean, you can hire someone in the Philippines and you can pay them a salary considerably over what they would earn locally, but still considerably less than you would have to pay someone in your home country. I mean, we have our bookkeeper is from the Philippines, but everyone else, our business manager is French, our community manager is from Norway, and I mean, we have a habit of overpaying people in some regards, but finding people that are best for the job. But if it's not a job that you need like the absolute best person you can find to do it, if it's just research or little minor things, find someone online outside of your home country and save money that way. But also it'll do something so much more important, but it'll save your mental energy.
Mm-hmm. Well, and God damn it, you should also be enjoying the freaking time and money you've built over all these years. It's like, not that you don't enjoy it, but like, shit, man, you've built this whole thing. It makes sense at some point that you like only engage in the things you really love about it, and then also can go take your Jeep out and all of that.
Yeah. It's just that there's the internet is just like, I guarantee that no matter what you need to find someone for, you'll find someone cheaper than in your home country that's probably better at doing that thing, or probably put in more time than you will. And it's just, yeah, anything that you can get a weight off your shoulders so you can just like enjoy your life. It's just like, just do it.
Yeah. Leon, we got to wrap up shortly here, and I appreciate so much your time and just talking so openly about all this. I just had two more questions I wanted to
Yes.
ask you. One, I've been talking a lot in the last couple weeks about just like how things just shift the minute you have those first interactions with students. My first like big course is in a beta program right now, and the first two students who went through it like changed my whole perspective on everything, because also just the minute someone's like, holy shit, that helped me, you're like, oh, now I'm obligated.
Yeah.
There's like that kind of thing. So I was curious if you could pin down like one or two of the biggest lessons you've learned from students going through your courses.
Right. So,
and just like the impact that has, once you start having that interaction.
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I think that we have learned that has come up every single time we've launched a product is that we always have this mentality, Sorel and I, we really only create products about things that we know really, really well. Like we don't go, oh, I hear there's people making shitloads of money about this thing, and then we go and research it and turn it into a course. Like we only, like, I guess it's just like an ethics thing that we only really create courses about things that we can like talk to people for hours anyway. But one thing that we always had, when you know something really well, and it's become second nature, you kind of think that sometimes the really basic things that in your head are super basic will also be basic to other people. What you've got to understand is that, like, if you're a specialist in something, the things that are basic to you in that speciality may be mind-blowing to someone that doesn't know about that. So we, at first, and we learned this very quickly, that our earlier courses, we went way more in depth than we should have. They were too complicated. They were too technical. And instead of focusing on the fundamentals that most people that would have gotten the most value out of, we went like completely down rabbit holes, like into the, like, and I'm not saying there shouldn't be sections in your course where if you have the opportunity to go into technical stuff for people that want it. But what we've learned over time is that more often than not, focus on the fundamental, most important building blocks that will help people solve whatever that problem is, instead of making your whole course about like these absolute technicalities. Because what we were finding is that we were going like really deep into technicalities on certain things, and because people didn't have that foundation, it was kind of like going over their head, and people were learning less out of that. So we got a lot of feedback from people at the start saying like, I don't understand this part of the course. Like, I don't understand what you're talking about here. Even though we'd covered like some of the basics, we didn't cover enough of the basics. So we were trying to make ourselves, not intentionally, but it's like we were trying to make ourselves look smarter and like, look at all we know about this topic, instead of just covering the fundamental bases of like the problems that people would need solved for whatever we were trying to teach them. Having said that, you should always have some more deeper technical stuff, or at least point people in the direction where they can find out more about that, because there will be a percentage of your audience that wants to go super deep. And that's something that we've learned with the course and the membership, that the membership gives you an opportunity to go in much deeper with the students that want it. On the other side of the coin, memberships are much more work than a course is. You'll have to put in ongoing work and effort to do it. So that's something else to consider. But yeah, the other thing that I think is probably the most important is give your students an opportunity where they can give you feedback. So that's one of the biggest things that we've learned. Whether it's in, comments on Teachable, whether it is in a membership area, whether you give them like a free Facebook group where they can reach out. It doesn't mean you have to be available all the time. This is another thing that I've seen people, they're like, well, with my course, you'll also get access to a free Facebook group where you can ask questions. And some people, like, then they're spending hours a day answering questions to their students. And it's like, you've basically got a membership, but you're not getting paid for it.
Right.
People need to understand that, like, the good thing about having a community is a lot of the time the community will take care of itself, but you have to put parameters on it. Like, I will be in this community once a week for 2 hours answering questions. But the community will also give your students an opportunity to tell you what they want, and you can add modules to the course. We're about to add like 5 new videos to the most recent course. People aren't getting paid anything, paying us anything more for it. It's just things that we feel like we need to add. So that's probably the 2 big things that we've learned really from students.
Yeah. I love the first thing you said. That was mirrored exactly my experience. I was like, they're going to love the nerdy stuff.
Yeah.
And
some people will, but most people won't get value from it.
Yeah, and it was the things I thought were like old hat and was bored to even explain that people were like, this is incredible. But I also really love, whether it's a model or just an idea, I love the idea of courses being kind of the onboarding experience for the paid community or for that place where you really go deeper. I think that provides a lot of focus for doing what you said, making the course as impactful as possible for the average person who doesn't know those things you spent decades learning.
Yeah.
So I just really appreciate that perspective. That's fantastic. Last question, Leon. Where can people learn more about you? Where can they find you? Where's your course? What's the best place just to dive into everything Leon Hill?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, like, it's not necessarily to check out our courses. Find out, like, what we do first. I think the 2 places to really look is first our mailing list, which is on Substack. So it is abundantia.substack.com. And that's our mailing list, which goes out once a week on a Sunday, where we talk about, things historically that are happening in the world of finance that are repeating now. And the other thing is our YouTube channel. Sorel Amor Finance is what the YouTube channel is called, but it's part of our business, Abundantia. It's kind of like, you can also find me on Instagram if you just type in my name, Leon Hill. I'm sure I'll be the first one that comes up. My profile picture is black and white, but yeah, just look at our content, and if there's anything there that resonates, I'm not going to tell you to go and buy one of our products. We've got enough people buying them anyway. It's just, if there's something there that, you find that you want to learn more about and go down a rabbit hole. I tend to find out with this world of finance and freedom, people get really hooked. It's just, there's certain things about it that are just cool. Like perfect example is 2 days ago, I was just speaking to an American friend, and one question, she never even considered the fact that she was eligible for a second passport. Never, ever. And I asked her one question. I said, where are your grandparents or your great grandparents from? And she said, well, one side is all Puerto Rican, but my great grandfather was from Lithuania. 2-minute Google search. I said, you're eligible for a European passport via your great grandfather. He left in 1930. So immediately a European passport that she like, and how many more doors does that open up? Sure, an American passport is great, but there's just something like, it's like life hacking. It's like learning the cool little loopholes of life. Like, there's this ancestor that I can get a passport, or there's this country I can set a company up in, and I can get like 20% interest on my bank account, whereas in my home country I'm getting 0.25. Like, it's just cool. It's just, you just go down rabbit holes. I love it.
Well, that's what got me hooked to your content first. It wasn't like the drum circle, like global citizen, like, that's why I don't pay taxes, man. It's like, no, here's how you actually goddamn do it.
Yeah.
And it's not a pipe dream. It's possible. It's
very, very possible. You're going to have to pay taxes somewhere, but whether you have to pay 20% or potentially 9%. I mean, just by Europeans, I know so many Europeans now that are just incorporating in Hungary, because in their home country, taxes 20 or 30 or 40%. In Hungary, it's 9%. Right. And if you're a European, you can just cross that border and go, well, I've now saved 30% on my tax bill every year. Like, it's just, some of this stuff is just so easy, but it's just, I don't know. The world is such an interesting place. And I just believe that you just kind of have to know where the doors are to open it. And that's the problem. Most people don't even know that these doors exist to open it. And, for years, the biggest companies on earth have been using these doorways, but that's because they pay $100,000 a year for their accountants or more, so they can teach these things. And I love showing just normal people that, like, you can do this too. It's just, it's epic. I love what I do for a living. I love it.
Oh, yeah. If that's the summary of today, showing other people that you can do this too. I love that. Leah, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for hanging out. I super appreciate you just sharing so openly all of these aspects and being willing to, like, just share some of the details of it, because it's so easy to get caught behind the veil of social media and stuff. And just as someone wanting to do those things, but like having the long checklist of what you have to do, just being like, oh, it's impossible, there's too much.
Yeah.
So I think it's really humanizing to sit down and get the chance to like just hear how someone who's actually in it talks about it, some of the things they've learned. I appreciate it very much.
No problem, man. I really appreciate speaking to you as well again. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's not going to be the last time.
I hope not. Yeah, let's do this again. And for everyone watching, thank you so much for being here today. There will be a replay available if you wanted to go back there. I know there were quite a few just little short nuggets in there that could be blowing up and expanded on. So comment if this was a good time. Hop in the comments, let us know if you enjoyed this, if there was something you learned. And also, if you had a good time, like and subscribe to the Spotlight channel. Go check out those past videos we've done with Leon. It's been an absolute blast having you, man. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon, Leon. Have a good one.
Thanks again.
Cheers.